All right.
Huh?
Is that today?
Is it today? Just
I just thought we were hanging out.
You guys are going to talk right over the one-liner.
It's today.
All right. Well, whenever you're ready.
All right.
Jesus.
Bill Clinton's running for president. Achy breaky heart is inescapable. And Jay Leno took over for Johnny Carson. It's 1992, and we don't care about any of that. Today on.
Don't pre-record an episode over the intro.
I prefer Conan anyways.
That was later. That was 93. But you're not wrong. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Press B to Cancel. Today we are talking about Game of the Year 1992, specifically. I am joined by the whole host of characters here. How's everybody doing? Jake?
Doing great for this Friday, as usual.
Sinistar?
Yeah, sure. This is a good Friday.
GP?
Doing good, but yeah, missing 1992 sometimes, yeah.
And Chard?
The cage has been torn down. I am no longer a rat in a cage. That was later. I think that was 94, but
yeah, it's something like that. Anyway, do we want to go over the rules of this again for people who might have missed it? All right.
Yeah,
so
just give the distilled version. Just
to be fair, even I'm still confused. So
the rules are messy.
We're talking initial release date. So if a game wasn't brought to the West until later from Japan, we don't care. We're talking initial release date. So there you go. That's what we're talking about as far as like best game of that year, according to us.
Yeah.
So this is
MLB games.
Best game
this
or
is
film?
this is subjective as hell.
Film?
Deal with it.
Album? Soundtrack?
sure.
And would anybody like to go first?
I don't know. I got scooped last year.
Okay, then let me go
this.
first.
Oh, wow.
My pick is Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
No, I'm not gonna do that. It's no shit. What's my picks? Let's go with runner up. Let's go with you know what? Sonic 2. Sonic 2 is my runner up for Game of the Year from 1992. The Sonic franchise is of course iconic. Everybody's played Sonic 2. It's also kind of considered, I think if you asked, 10 people, I think majority of them would say Sonic 2 is the best of the 2D Sonic games. Even though I prefer 3 just a little bit more, you can't deny how much Sonic 2 was great for that franchise. It's the game that first brought in the spin dash. It also brought in that sidekick, which the reason I like Sonic 2 is I can play without Tails. Fuck that guy. So
You could play Sonic 3 without Tails also.
which is why it's also
Miles.
really
His
good.
name is Miles.
Plus Knuckles. Yeah.
That's
Well,
Miles
yeah,
per-
Wasn't
Oh,
real
perfect.
quick aside, wasn't Sonic 3 like couldn't you sandwich it onto the cart? Wasn't there a way to like
That
Play
was
together?
Sonic and Knuckles.
okay.
Yeah.
That was
Sonic
Sonic
and
and
Knuckles.
Knuckles would attach.
Okay.
Both Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 could be married with Sonic and Knuckles, and you could play as Knuckles in Sonic 2, or you can play an expanded version of Sonic 3.
So
Yeah.
cool.
Okay.
Or you can attach it to Sonic 1 and have an infinite variety of those sphere bonus levels because everybody loves blue spheres.
Mhm.
I did that quite a bit.
How excited
so
were
this-
you guys for Sonic Tuesday?
Oh, was that when this came out?
Apparently, so
that the marketing hype?
excited we're speechless.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
Right.
Sonic, I
the
just
all-
release
I was
date
all
was
in.
a Tuesday,
All
and
in.
so it was Sonic the number 2 as day.
Oh boy.
Mm.
Sega and their date span. I still remember the Dreamcast 99 thing that they're pitching for the longest while. But
if
Sonic
memory
2,
serves, it came out September 1st, 91, so 9191.
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm
Emergency.
reaching way back.
Sega's
that
big on the
accurate?
numerology.
Well, about
For
that
Sonic
numerology.
2
God,
or
now I
Sonic
gotta
1?
check. Sonic 2. Oh
Well, we're
no,
talking
yeah, because then it
92.
would have been September 2nd, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
92,
Q92,
Really
not
looking
91.
forward to June 9th.
Well, that was a Wednesday though.
To me, it was a Wednesday.
Again, you know what it is though? This is the problem we're
Tuesday
gonna
was
have with
the
these
first.
these rules that we've concocted for ourselves is that it may have been Sonic Tuesday in North America. It might have been, Tails Wednesday in Japan. We just don't know. But Sega of America was definitely keen on the numerology for their dates and release dates. But anyway, Sonic 2, great game, solid game. Everything that was great in the first game, they made, I feel, better with the second entry. Just the issues I had with the first game was a lack of enemy variety, and I didn't like how you couldn't spin dash, right? Because the physics of Sonic are very important, and if you didn't have enough momentum to make it up a hill, in Sonic 1, you kind of had to like go back and forth, build momentum. It was very tedious. It wasn't a great experience. Sonic 2 with the spin dash totally opens up that game. Just like the music is a jam across the board. Everybody loves the music. So many different characters. The zones are pretty awesome and varied. The bosses, I think, are a cut above. It's probably one of the best in the Genesis, not just for 92, but for the platform.
Yeah.
So I think a few of you have played Sonic 2.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I played
Religiously.
the crap
First
out
month
of
and a half
this.
of 2023 was all Sonic 2 for me.
That was your fake
Yeah.
Sisyphean game. Yeah.
That was, yeah.
God, I feel like I've told this story on the podcast, but I don't know. This was a game that I was so into at the time that I left it on overnight because I was like in Mystic Cave Zone or something. I had all the emeralds. So I was supersonic. I was in Mystic Cave Zone. I had to go to bed.
Mhm.
So I turned off the TV and left the Genesis on all night, went to school the next day, came home, and went to turn on the Genesis to play Sonic 2 and realized I turned it off and I was so mad.
Oh. So it wasn't even
And that-
like your mom had turned it off.
No,
No,
I
you
literally
did
came
yourself.
home, stuck my finger in the TV stand and went click. And then I was like, no.
We had a Darth Vader moment with Hayden Christensen. No.
It's
Oh.
wild because like this is a
yeah.
game that was incredibly long, so I can see why you'd have to leave it on overnight because that even the final zone, the airship zone leading into when you're fighting Robotnik, you have that double boss battle. You have to fight Metal Sonic, which when I first beat that was amazing to me because you have to do it without rings, so it's basically
Mhm.
deathless. And just me as a kid remembering the patterns to beat that, I felt really awesome after beating that. And then, of course, fighting a gigantic Robotnik is just epic with the flying arms and the music and just a really great ending set piece to that game.
This game, yeah.
There are passwords, right?
We
I
so
remember
there were cheat
There's a level
codes.
select though, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
level
so
select,
there was
yeah.
like in the sound test, one of them was 4126, the other one was 1965 917, which I believe was Yuji Naka's birthday. Like I did these codes
Cool.
so much growing up that they're just in there. Like
I didn't know there were
but
codes.
yeah,
I
you
just
go into the sound
Okay.
test and you enter those codes and then you can go into stage select. And I think stage select you can enter other codes if I'm not mistaken. I don't recall though.
I just remember up, down, down, left, right, BA.
Not the same.
But Sonic 2's music, like it had so many more stages than Sonic 1, and so it had so much more music. And Sonic 1's music was good. It was catchy, but it pales in comparison to Sonic 2. Sonic 2, they were like, all right, that was line dancing.
yeah.
Now we're
Yeah.
going to the club.
Yeah.
I do feel
Yep.
like this is kind of a Mega Man case where 2 was so superior to 1. Like 1 was groundbreaking and like here's the idea, and then 2 was so much more well refined, just across the board, story wise, visually, audibly, or orally, I guess if you can hear it. Anyway, so yeah, I agree with you. 2 across the board, much better than 1.
I think I've told this
Yeah.
story on the podcast. Growing up, my friend and I used to we played this game religiously, and we had our favorite songs from each zone, and we'd sit with a tape recorder and record the songs on tape, sitting next to the TV for like 3 or 4 minutes or whatever. So we had like I loved Hilltop Zone's music, Chemical Plant Zone's a fucking banger. Oil Ocean. I mean, all these
Mhm.
were amazing jams, and we put them on tapes and we'd play them around the house, and and it was, you could hear the snickering and the scratching of the mic against the TV because we're putting it right up to the speaker,
And the
it's
and the nice
very
air
yeah,
hiss behind it.
the hissing behind it just added for the ambiance, but
Yeah.
Room tone.
I
That's what
have
we call
a
it. Room tone. It's great.
Room tone.
room tone. I have a lot of love for Sonic 2. This one, I almost picked this one as at least my runner up. This game
Yeah.
was spectacular. So good.
Well,
call.
you
I'm
did
glad,
pick it,
I'm
but
glad I
then
did.
Jake, you did pick it, but then Jake
Yeah,
just
then I
used
stole
it,
it.
right?
Yeah, okay.
Let's go ahead
sure.
and peel the curtain back a little bit, guys.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So
peel
what's
the curtain back.
interesting though, Wolf, is you mentioned that this has so many more stages than Sonic 1, which is neat because there's actually were other stages planned that were shown in pre-press release and screenshots that never made it to the final cut of the game. There's I think I've mentioned it before, there's a ROM hack called Sonic Delta, and it basically takes all four Sonic games from Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles and makes them all into one cohesive game. And part of that process is they went back to magazine screen grabs of cut zones from Sonic 2 and kind of fan-made zones based on those screenshots. So if you play
Interesting.
Sonic Delta, there's actually like a level, I think it's called the Wood Zone or something, or Forest Zone, and it's based on those screenshots. Not the greatest, doesn't look as good, but the fact that they took screenshots of cut zones to kind of make them cohesive was pretty interesting. That game was definitely more epic in scope than I think people realize and what they're trying to do with it.
Oh yeah, I think this was one that ended up on Nick Arcade as like an early version of it. So the competitors, like for the final round, they got to play that against each other, which was really cool. Yeah, Sonic 2, it brought in Super Sonic, which totally copycat of Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan, right? But
Oh yeah.
it was at that age, I had no idea. I didn't know Dragon Ball then. So
Yep,
for me,
didn't
it was
care.
like, this is just
Because we
cool.
only got the first 64 episodes. Still heard about that. Not important. Let's move on.
But what like
A different wound to
music
heal.
was amazing. Stage design was really interesting. The fact that you can get all the emeralds to become supersonic before the first boss is just wild to me.
Yep.
And like I think I spent like a month just perfecting that when I was younger because you got only a handful of games, so you're gonna play the crap out of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just absolutely loved it. Like it's funny to me when Jake complains about the Robo Sonic at the end of Sonic 2, and I'm like, that thing is so easy.
It's that to learn the patterns and you can't get hit once. That was an achievement to beat that boss deathless.
I'll be
I don't
fair. When that was my first wall that I hit in Sonic 2, and when I beat Mecha Sonic, I like celebrated, and then found out you had to fight the Death Egg robot, and was like, "Fuck!" And I couldn't figure it out that it was
The hitbox is
3D
just so
ish.
weird.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
hitbox was weird. So if the
Yeah.
it's facing this side, so you see its right arm, but if the left arm was out and you barely saw it, you still get hurt by it. So it was a weird. I was like, how the fuck do I hit this thing? I can't hit it.
Yeah,
And,
the whatever they call that, the egg robo mech or whatever, I don't know, but
Death
that
Egg
thing is a pain
robot.
in the ass. I will give it that. But Sonic, the Robo Sonic before is kind of easy. He's got a simple pattern that he just repeats like every 3 goes. It's like the same thing back and forth. But
Also,
I
I
think
wanna-
if I'm not mistaken, after Robo Sonic, they give you like 3 rings, right?
I
to
think so.
take
Yes.
on
So you have
Robotnik.
something against the last boss. Yeah.
Yeah, because he sucks.
I want to make special mention of the boss battle music though in Sonic 2. I don't remember Sonic 1 well enough to know if they use the same tone for that, but it is a good mix of all right, go get him and anxiety. And
Yes.
it's, there's like a cheeriness to it, but there's also like a, don't mess this up or it's going to be very, very painful to have to redo all this stuff. I don't know. So Char's right. A lot of the stages, and everybody's right. A lot of the stage music is fantastic, but I always thought that was a wildly effective boss battle theme.
If they could personify anxiety, it would be a Sonic sound.
If
Well,
they could
the underwater stages
personify,
alone, right? That drowning music
Yeah.
is just forever
Oh, yeah.
etched in my head, right?
if they could personify my dad's disappointment in me, it would be when Sonic gets hit with 0 rings.
Wow. Wow.
All right. So Sonic 2. Good pick.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we just go around? Sinistar?
Sure. So, my runner-up was basically the start of a franchise, and has continued to this day. My runner-up is Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo.
You got so lucky that you were going second.
Yeah, just to peel back the curtain a little bit, we do a little discussion beforehand. Like, I haven't told them what my game of the year is yet, but I saw some contention for Super Mario Kart, so I called it out, and apparently somebody else wanted it too.
A few of
Sounds
us.
about
Yeah, did anybody not?
par for the course.
Yeah. So, I mean, 92 is a banger year. Go look on Moby Games or whatever source you want. But yeah, Super Mario Kart. I mean, obviously the campaign, working through, the different tiers, the different cups, like, is fantastic. But really the for me, the absolute gem to Super Mario Kart was the split screen with your friends, right? I mean, doing the battles, you have the balloons on your car, you're throwing shells, you're running around like the maps. It's just a fantastic game all around, and a little fun story. So this is fairly modern. This is probably 6 or 7 years ago. I worked for a company that built a wall of TVs, and we had a kind of a duplexer that we could either have the TVs show their own thing, or we could have the TVs show all the same thing. And across from this wall of TVs was a meeting room with a glass wall, and they were doing training, and I'm in this room, and they're doing training. The trainer's back is turned to me, and the class is facing me, and I throw Mario Kart up on every TV in this room and start playing Mario Kart, and you can see the trainer realize he's lost the class.
You've done it.
Yeah, and
Done it now.
so yeah, the class ended up taking a break, and we had some Mario Kart battles. It was a lot of fun.
Nice. That reminds me from The Office, when everybody's supposed to be paying attention to Michael, but there's the DVD box thing or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Well, but it hits the corner. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. No, so I mean, what's to be said about Mario Kart? It's a kart game. I mean, this is not a new thing.
Yeah.
It didn't have tunnels, just so you know. It didn't have tunnels.
There were some tunnels. There were no tunnels?
Well, it was Mode 7. Mode 7 couldn't do tunnels, but there was the illusion of tunnels.
There's
right?
the illusion of tunnels.
Illusions,
You could
Michael.
jump over the tunnels.
Yeah.
For those that are new to the podcast, first off, please subscribe. We love you. But second, this is a meme now within our group.
Tunnel.
Yeah.
Pipe. Just realized this.
Right. Yeah.
Just realized that. Interesting.
Right.
What is a tunnel but a pipe that you go inside of? I guess
That's right.
Sideways
Wow.
pipe.
we're getting deep.
No,
I'm gonna say like
yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I love Mario Kart for the SNES. I mean, of course, I like the other ones later in the franchise too, but this is where it started. Just it was Mode 7 graphics, so it has that very flat look to it. Which I mean, going back to it today, you might go, "What the hell is this?" Because it's definitely gotten better since then. But I still liked how interactive that flat texture was. Because Ghost Houses, for example, the Ghost House tracks, which had great music and atmosphere, but whenever you hit the walls, they would disappear. There's also jump pads like that made you hop. There's ones that you get items from the question blocks that are on the floor, coins. Like even though it was a flat texture, they did so much with the interactivity of the ground and made it above and beyond a typical racer. By that point, we'd already seen many racing games, of course, throughout history, but that was truly like its own thing, right? The idea of a racer with interactive track elements, you pull up, power ups, right? It was really something to see. Plus multiplayer. I mean, I don't think anybody I know has not played SNES Mario Kart multiplayer and not loved it, right? The whole idea of popping balloons of your friends with shells and bananas and stuff is just wild. That game is good. From start to finish, I love Mario Kart.
This is
knowing that red shell's on its way. Just knowing that red shell's on its way.
This is the creation of the subgenre, right? The mascot racers. Like there were racing games like you guys were saying, but nothing like this where it was characters from another IP. And it
That's what I
wasn't.
was thinking
I
too.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if there were carts in other racing games. They were always vehicles. If I remember, Gaming Historian had done a really great comprehensive episode on this, and if I remember correctly, forgive me if I'm wrong, he had said that they were doing a racing game with some Mario aesthetics, and then they said, you know what we could do that would be different is put them in go-karts instead. So the whole
Right.
team went to a go-kart fun zone type place,
Uh-huh.
and then they
Mhm.
came away thinking, yeah, that's a great idea.
I love
Yeah.
that it's all ranked in like 50cc, 100cc,
Yeah,
you know, 150cc.
that's the
And
realism.
I love the difference in feel too. Like it is very much you get used to 50cc and then you jump either to 100 or even worse, you jump to 150cc and it's you're bouncing off the walls.
Well,
Yeah.
like you could
So
play 50 without using the brake, so it's nice and accessible to get you into it. You enjoy
Mhm.
the characters, the tracks, the atmosphere. But then when you play 150, it suddenly becomes more of a real racer. You have to use actual driving technique with the brake and whatnot.
right.
Plus the jumping
Yep.
was wild. It didn't have drifting back
The
then
drift.
like we do
Yeah.
in the other games, but it had the hopping to help you do turning on dime. Yeah, it's wildly different at 150cc. It's definitely a different challenge. Was there mirror tracks in this one? I don't remember if there
There
was.
were. So this was one of those games that sort of like you see what the content is, and you're kind of like once you're finished with it, you're like, oh man. But if you actually go through and get gold on everything, you unlock a fourth cup.
Right.
And then if you get gold on that, I think you unlock the mirror tracks for all 4 cups.
I don't think I knew that about them. I knew that for later installments, which again, I love this game, but this game spawned the series that eventually gave
Yeah.
us the Master Beast Double Dash. So I knew about the mirror modes for the future installments. That
This
was the
guy.
most dismissive look I've seen in a moment from Wolf. I feel like I let you down.
How
I hate-
dare
I
you
hate
not
Double
know
Dash.
about
How-
mirror?
I am not a fan
Yeah,
of Double Dash either.
I don't like it
Double
either.
Dash is so good.
We should do an
By the
episode on
way-
Double Dash.
Yes, we should.
One of the GameCube's Mario Karts spawned the story that we have in our household of my boys were playing. It probably was Double Dash, and they were selecting the mode, and Sinstress is walking by and they say, "Oh yeah, let's play Grand Prix, Prix, right?" And she says it's Grand Prix, and they basically were like, "No,
No.
that's."
Grand
And
Prix,
so-
come on.
And so
That's silly.
then I walk by later. I'm like, "Oh, Grand Prix," and they're like, "Oh." So
But yeah, this game kind of changed the nature of what we thought racing games were at the time, because I mean, this came out the same year as Top Gear for the
Mhm,
SNES,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
was also
Yeah.
a spectacular game, but it's just so different.
right,
Like when my friend was talking about Top Gear, I never connected it with Mario Kart. When we were talking about Mario Kart, I never connected it with Top Gear. Like they were just so different.
Yeah.
That
Right.
it didn't
Yeah,
even
this
feel
is-
like the same genre.
this is a
'cause it
kart
was-
Yeah,
racer.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
kart
well,
racer.
It's funny to think that it's a racing game, period. But when you talk, it's like when you talk about Mario Kart, it's like you're talking about your own, like a own flavor of ice cream. You don't put it in with any kind of racing game. It's just Mario Kart, even though it is a racing game. But you'll be like, we're gonna go play a racing game. Oh, we're gonna
You-
play
yeah.
Forza. No, we're gonna go play Mario Kart. Oh, we're gonna play
Yeah.
Mario Kart. It's completely
Yeah.
different, even though it's a racing game. It's totally different.
It's the
it's funny.
Nintendo spin on a classic genre, right? Like they took
Yeah.
a
Right.
racing game and we're like, let's do our own thing entirely. It's the same with
Yeah.
fighting games, what they did with Smash Brothers. It did it all over again.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's like how Kleenex changed the facial tissue game. Absolutely.
Right,
You don't say I
right.
need a
Game
facial
changer.
tissue.
100%. Absolutely.
That snot technology is unmatched at Kleenex. Like, what can I say?
100%.
But
So yeah, my
even
runner-up.
games that
Oh.
even other studios that try and copy Mario Kart over the years, and there's definitely a few, even on the SNES. There was eventually Konami Racers and whatnot later on, or was that Game Boy Advance? But anyway, there's competitors for kart racing. Nobody's done it as good as the original. Nobody, right? It's Mario
Right.
Kart or nothing. There's been since then. Sonic Racing had one hit out of a few. There was Garfield Kart. There's other kart racers, but none of them feel as good and as well designed as Mario Kart. And it goes back to
yeah,
BC
like there's
BC
some of
tires?
them that
BC
come
tires is
close,
so bad.
but they never quite get there.
Yeah.
And it's like if only there were some other thing they could have done that it would have improved it. Like For me, it was years later. It was Chocobo Racing for the PlayStation.
Mm.
I love
Mhm.
Chocobo Racing. I think it was really good. I just think it sucks that it's limited to 2 players, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the battle mode was really weak in that because it was still on the normal tracks. Like you can't chase people down like that. But
But
Yeah,
like,
where's my square arena with like the walls, right?
right.
well, I mean, there are even installments of Mario Kart that they did that. They put the battle mode on the regular tracks, which
Yeah.
didn't do
Wolf's
it.
not about
Like
that
after
pursuit
Mario
life.
64 and Block Fort, how did they think that putting it on a regular track was going to be a good idea?
Yeah.
Damn it, Square.
But and
You're
it's
right,
funny
though.
because Mario Kart for SNES, it was so amazing at the time, but it's aged so poorly.
Yeah.
Trying to go back and play it is so unintuitive. It's a
No.
mess.
Well, okay, yes. Unintuitive. I was going to argue with you until you pulled out that one. That's a good word for that. It's
No,
still,
the game
aged well. I don't
itself,
know. It's still
the game
fun.
the game itself is still the fine wine. It's just the problem
Yeah.
is your bottle opener isn't the same anymore.
Yeah, you should not be drinking that Merlot out of a juice box, is what we're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And I had that
Why not?
problem when playing the GBA one, Super Circuit, I think it's called.
mhm.
It
Mm,
plays
yes.
very similar to the SNES one. And, when I first started playing it, I was like, oh no. But I got into it and I got good at it and I did everything there was to do in it by the time I was done with it. So it's just unintuitive when you first fire it up. Like you
Yeah.
turn left and your cart immediately starts skidding to the right. And
Yeah.
it's like, what's happening? This isn't how
It
turns
just
work.
sounds like my old car.
I'll say this is. I wanted to make special mention of the boss fight music in Sonic 2, and I want to make special mention of stage design, which obviously is important for any racer. But the fact that later on in the series they would go back and upgrade or redesign the classic tracks to fit whatever console you're
Mhm.
playing on, and those were still relevant tracks and they were still fun. Like they
Yeah.
had this
Yep.
futurist great idea that they had to implement on the hardware that they had, which in 92 the SNES seemed like, a freaking supercomputer, I guess. But
Right.
yeah, I just the fact that you could do that, you could go back, grab that stage and plug it in now. You couldn't do that. You couldn't take, for example, eight, no, I don't say 8-2, but 1-1 from the original Mario. You couldn't translate that to Mario Wonder exactly as it is and be like, that was fun. Be way too basic. But you can do that with the older Mario Kart tracks and still have something
Sure.
special.
My
Mhm.
favorite battle map is still Block Fort. I think the Switch Mario Kart has Block Fort slightly reimagined, but it's still the basic layout of the original. I love it. That's still my favorite map.
Classic.
Nice. Well, my runner-up is Super Mario Kart. So there you go.
Excellent. Beautiful.
All right. Well, Chard, you want to go next before somebody steals yours?
Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to steal my runner-up. I'm more worried about my overall, but sure, I'll go next. So, this game holds a very special place in my heart. I played this game quite a bit as a kid. It's a point and click adventure for the PC. It was one of the earlier PC games that I owned. And I didn't realize that it came out at 92, and I'm glad that I did, but I'm going with King's Quest 6 Air Today, Gone Tomorrow, where you play the son of Graham. I believe his name is Alexander, and you wash up on a shore in the middle of what appears to be some kind of a desert-esque type area, and your mission is to basically figure out where the hell you are, how you got there, and how you're going to get back. And it's your standard Sierra King's Quest click game with all kinds of different puzzles and crazy shit. This game really put my brain through the grinder. There was a lot of hidden things that were hard to see. This might have been one of the few games that I actually had to go onto Yahoo or Excite and figure out where the hell I was supposed to go, because there's a whole section with it's a play on words section, and there's a thing called a dangling participle, which is an English phrasing or something or other, but it's a creature, and I didn't know what the fuck I was supposed to do with it, and I was beating my head against the wall. And when I finally overcame that puzzle, and I couldn't tell you how I did it because it's been years, I was exuberant. I was super excited that we got through it. There's a level that looks like a chessboard, and I believe like the Queen of Hearts and shit is in this thing. And at the very end of the game, when you fight the main antagonist, there's like a sword fight that you do, and it's actually extremely well done for a point and click battle that you do at the end of the game. It was super exciting. This game just goes down in my memories as a um fantastic runner up to 1992. It really reminds me a lot of all the great games that came out this year, or that year, this year that we're talking about. Um, yeah, King's Quest 6 is spectacular. It's got the beep and the bops and the boops and the MIDI music, so you can't really say that the music's spectacular out of this particular
Unless
version.
Unless you're the
unless
CD
you have
version,
the
right?
unless you have the CD version or the MT32.
I
Which
think
yeah,
I don't remember which one I had. I don't know beats the boss, but
I
it
guarantee you
obviously
didn't
got
have an
better.
MT32. I
Yeah,
guarantee
yeah,
you didn't have an MT32.
you're probably right. But I
Yeah.
had a compact Basario. That's what I fucking had, and it was an all-in-one, and I hated that goddamn thing. But point was, is it played the goddamn game, and it played it well,
Yeah.
and I loved it. It's a really good addition. I mean, having the King's Quest 5 and then 6 coming out right after that, being just as good as 5. 5 being, I guess, the pinnacle of the King's Quest games in certain people's opinions. Um,
hmm
that 6 was a great, I guess you'd say successor from 5 on. So
And
it's a great game.
Robbie Benson voiced Alexander, who also
Mhm.
was the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
Yep.
Oh, was
The
it?
91
Oh, I
film.
forgot.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
That
yeah.
is
rad.
correct.
That Robbie
So great.
Benson?
That Robbie Benson.
Wow.
Yep.
And plus, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, really, any time that Roberta Williams wrote the script, which she did in this, I mean, it was always a good game, right?
Yeah.
So,
And there were voice like and to Sinistar's point, there were voiceovers in this game. The
mhm.
characters actually were talking, and the narrator actually talked to you when you were playing this. So you could hear like the enthusiasm and the emotion. I mean, it wasn't Oscar acting or anything, but it was certainly different from what we had played in the past, where
Yeah.
people were telling you things and you were talking about stuff, and it felt like you were getting narrated throughout the game. It's a great game. I love it. It still holds up, in my opinion. It still holds up today in the retro category. I've popped it on and played it on the docs. Was it the DOS box or whatever?
hmm
And it still looks good. It's retro,
Yeah.
but it still looks really solid for a point and click adventure. So would highly,
Didn't
highly recommend people give this one a shot.
didn't this one get a re-release of some sort? Maybe I'm misremembering,
I don't
but
think it did.
There
I know
was
3 got a pretty big update. Obviously, 1, 2, and 3 got kind
yeah,
of like fan redone releases that are
right. That's what it
spectacularly
was.
done. They look like 5. But 3 has Alexander in it before, he
yeah.
realizes who he is. So that might be where you're getting the wires crossed in that one. I hope they do a re-release of 6. That would be sweet. That'd be awesome.
By the way, to talk about what's the best King's Quest in the series, looking at the Wikipedia article, it's King's Quest 6 is generally considered the best title in the series.
I would have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Personally, I love 6 over 5.
Yeah.
I just think it's cool. You get to fight a minotaur and you get to do all kinds of cool shit. And there's a lot of like really good um mythological connections throughout the game that's from all kinds of different religions of the Greeks and Romans and all that stuff. It's really neat how they kind of married it all together and made it into a really exciting and really interesting game.
And I love the subtitle names on the King's Quest games, like Air Today, Gone Tomorrow. That's so. I mean,
Yeah.
plus the cover on this one, you say you get to fight a Minotaur. The cover is a Minotaur with
Is a
like,
minotaur's
and
Alex
it's
going to fight him. Yeah.
yeah, I remember seeing that in the stores with the black border around it,
Mhm.
and yeah, and I mean this was big box era, right?
Yep.
Big box
It was a
video
clean
game
game.
era.
I
Yeah,
used to have it. I don't know where it's gone in all these years, but I wish I could find that game. That'd be a great game for the wall. Get your bingo cards out.
agreed.
Great game for the wall.
Well,
Yeah.
good
Like
good pick. I mean, any King's Quest to me. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, the quality of like the graphic work in this, like yes, it's retro, it's pixel arts, but it's always beautiful. Like the scenes, the backgrounds, the characters animate really fluidly. Like the animations are really good. And
Mhm.
just yeah, I love King's Quest series. I've only played a handful of them. I need to go back and play them. But I do love Roberta Williams' work. I mean, it's just great. This is a series where I I, I almost wish there was a modern reboot, but then I'm worried what that would even look like. And it's maybe just best to leave it the way they are now, because they
Right.
are pretty timeless as they are now. They're still fun to go back to now.
There was an episodic reimagining of I think the first one that came
The
out.
first one, yeah.
I want to
there?
say 2015-ish.
Let me.
Um,
I can verify.
That was the
King's
fan
Quest
one, I think,
Rebirth?
right?
Or
I
remake?
don't know if it was fan made. I mean, obviously Sierra's defunct at this point, so
Right.
probably fan made.
Yeah. Who even owns the IP now?
Probably
Who owns
EA.
Sierra? Embracer.
Probably.
Sorry, Embracer. Embracer
Yeah.
does,
Yeah.
and they're going to sell it off for $500 million.
Well, I think we have our next fundraiser set up now, don't we? You know
Yeah.
what we have to do is buy the rights to King's Quest.
The episodic King's Quest that features Graham, and it's basically the first King's Quest was released. Oh, I thought that was when I last played it. Never mind. Keep going. Keep talking. That's not a. I don't have good information for you.
All right,
I
I
think
just
Activision
pulled it up.
Blizzard, I think,
Activision.
owns the current. Yeah.
And then the
I know
developer-
Microsoft,
So
was
Microsoft now.
releasing it. Yeah, I remember Microsoft releasing the original of this game. So
Either way, it's well worth your time to play any of the King's Quests. I mean, honestly, any
Yeah.
of the Sierra point and click adventures from that era are high value. Even Leisure Suit Larry, although definitely has not aged well.
Yeah.
I mean,
no.
it hadn't aged well when it came out.
Yeah. It was
You
was
can get the
crassy even
whole-
back then. Yeah.
you can get the King's Quest collection on Steam for like
Yeah.
next to nothing, and it's 1 through 7, or it might be 1
Yeah.
through 6, but it's worth picking up.
Cool.
I might have
Yeah,
to play
great
through
pick.
those at some point. These are games like I was always interested in them, but like I think I told you guys this before. I rented their 4 for NES, and it was just, ugh. And so I never went back.
I can't
after
imagine
that.
playing this on a Nintendo. It's crazy.
But I mean, I
played-
love Blazing Dragons for the PlayStation, and it seems like it's very much inspired by that. So
Right.
Mhm.
I
Looks
played
like-
4 on the Apple IIe, and it was 4 double-sided discs. And when I say double-sided,
where you had to
on the
change the
Apple, you
disc
had to
every
flip
time?
the
Yeah.
disc over.
I
Yeah.
played it the same way. That was
And I
awful.
remember going from like screen to screen, and it'd be like,
Yep.
put in disc 6, put in
Oh,
disc
man.
4.
It was awful. King's Quest remake it looks like it was released in 2015,
Okay.
and it came to all modern consoles, including Windows, so PlayStation 3, 4, Xbox 360, and
Oh.
Xbox One, as well as Microsoft Windows.
Yeah, nice.
Fun fact.
But yeah, good pick. I played 6. I think I only played 6 really the once. But yeah, I
love
need to
6.
go back and play it again.
I'd love to dig it up and play it again. I have it. I'd love to give it a shot. Anywho, that's mine. That's my my runner-up.
Dangling participle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Spoony Bard.
I
That is
mean,
my high school nickname.
I love it.
all right, GP, you want to lead us into yours?
All right. So really the big discussion here for me is going to be my runner-up. I think my game of the year pick is pretty, I mean, it'll speak for itself. Everybody will nod their heads and say, yeah, that's a great pick. So let's talk real quick about the runners-up.
I will.
Prior to, we'll say 49 minutes and 20 seconds ago, my runner-up was going to be Lil Samson. You guys have heard me talk about this game
Yeah.
before. It really is a case of a game having the rug pulled out from it. It is the pinnacle of what the NES was capable of, but it was released in a time when the SNES was the hot new thing, so it didn't get a lot of attention. And so yeah, that was kind of going to be it. I don't know if anybody else in the audience has picked up on this. I'm sure my other cohorts here have. I've only ever played about 12 games my entire life, so I recycle a lot of things. But Little Samson, I think, would have been a solid runner-up. I think had it been as relevant as it was intended to be, maybe released a little earlier in the cycle, it would have. Our timeline would see more things like it, but
Right.
the timeline that we're in, just not how it worked out. So the reason this changed just over 50 minutes ago is because somebody mentioned Final Fantasy V. I wasn't going to mention Final Fantasy V because even though it was released originally in 92, North America didn't get it till much, much later. I think the first official release was as part of Final Fantasy Anthologies, which was a PS1 version with horrible load times and some CGI cutscenes at the beginning and end. So I wasn't planning on mentioning it, but I've been addicted to the Pixel remasters for a couple of years now. I've got it on my phone. I actually just played through 5. And in playing these games chronologically, I've been able to understand what each one brings to the table in a different way. You guys are all kind of smiling at me like GP is just going to talk for 20 minutes. We can clock out, and that's fair.
No.
No, that's all right.
Is that happening right now? Is this happening right now?
Yeah, it's all about just you talking. It's not about you picking somebody else's pick.
Is this
And it wasn't
seriously
me.
happening right now?
Is this not enough of a hidden gem?
This was Chard's game of the year, GP.
I know I'm being fucked up here. I forgot. I thought you changed it, Chard. I apologize. I thought you were going to pick Mario Kart.
Sonic 2 pick.
Oh, fuck, that's right. Okay, let me start over. So Little Samson.
I hate it here.
No,
God
it's
damn.
fair, guys. I'm sorry. This is not my day. Little Samson. So my game of the year is going to be.
Wait, aren't you on runner-up?
We're on
You're on
runner
Yeah,
up.
we're on runner-up right now,
You're
guys.
running up.
I
Running
think
up my
run with
game.
it.
Chard,
Just
You're
pick
running
Final
up.
Why did
Fantasy
you let me
5. We'll
go
run with
3
it.
full fucking minutes on this? I understand it's my fault.
I thought you were like leading into some troll move.
No,
Yeah.
I legit thought everybody was changing their stuff around because of the conversation in Discord right before. So I thought 5 fell off. So I apologize.
Mm.
So I will go back to my original pick and I will stand by it and I will die on that hill. But Chard, believe me, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to step on your toes. I thought you were doing away with it in favor of
I need
one of
a
the
thing
games
of
somebody else was afraid.
popcorn. I need a thing
I've
of
had such a
popcorn
great
here.
time being on this podcast, and I will miss most of you. And no, I'm kidding. So we can edit that out in post, even though this is a Friday
Nope.
and we're live.
Nope.
No, so Little Samson, Chard, again, forgive me, dude. I'm serious. I apologize.
You're
Little Samson's it was my original pick, so I'm just gonna go straight back to that. Little Samson, 1992 NES, the culmination of what an NES game could have been. If anything, it was a little too short, but it checked off all the boxes. And I think my timeline thing was pretty apt. If that had been released at a different time when the NES was more of a relevant system,
Mm.
I think there's a whole like genre that would be more in line with what Little Samson set up. If you haven't played it, it's easy to find and purchase, very affordable. So go out and get it, grab it, act like you want it.
It was like
And,
$4,000 or something.
I'm going to shut the fuck up for a few minutes. So thank you guys.
Well, so this is 92. So this is the end of the NES life, right? This is,
Yeah.
I mean, how close to the end did Little Samson come out?
It was it
Like
June or
right
was it
there.
October
June.
of
June
92?
26th. June
Yeah.
26th.
June. Okay.
92.
So yeah, my game of the year came out in October, so I got those flip flops. So but yeah, it was at the end, and everybody was just gaga for the SNES, and even the
Right.
hype for the SNES was overshadowing the actual release of this game. So just
But
wild.
they had pushed I mean, they had pushed the bounds of the NES pretty hard toward the end. I mean, even like Super Mario 3, the way that they handle, the display at the bottom and the way that it did the refresh. And so like I'm assuming Little Samson was pretty advanced for the NES.
Yeah,
I haven't actually played Little Samson, I have to admit.
Oh, you have to. Yeah.
It's-
It's
yeah,
great.
same.
It's a little bit of Mega Man, a little bit of Mario, Ninja Gaiden.
Okay.
Like it's a really great platformer, and you have multiple forms you can take, selectable forms, and they all behave quite different. It's a hard game though.
It's
But
very
it's
hard.
it's a fantastically
very
done
hard.
game. It looks amazing. The music is cute. It's just a fun game to
so
move
smooth.
around in and play with.
It's a
Like
good
the
game.
controls are really
Yeah.
tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little
Well, and
Samson
Yeah,
is a great end of life system game that, as GP said, unfortunately does not benefit from the release of the Super Nintendo, and everybody had already passed it over. But Little Samson it's got a high Moby score for good reason, because it is a very good game with some cool, character quick changes and having to adjust, using one character for the other. But it is NES hard. This thing is NES
Yeah.
hard, real hard.
It is, but I think it gets a pass because even though it's hard and not always the smartest, it has a pure heart and good intentions, even if it sometimes chooses chards games because it wasn't fully paying attention to the assignment. I think it kind of gets a pass for the NES hard because it is so well executed, and it does kind of have a toon-ish, childlike presentation to it. But really, at its core, the different characters, the different attributes they have, I don't know. It's a great, I don't want to say hidden gem. Jesus save me. I don't want to say hidden gem.
Well,
but,
in a way, it was because
Yeah.
I think
most kids never
this
played it.
yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
This
this
one
constitutes as somewhat of a hidden gem within its lifespan. I would 100% agree that this is something that would be considered that,
If
because
we
it,
weren't
like you
familiar
said, it
with
got
Twitch,
overshadowed from all the extra shit. And to Jake's point, if we didn't have retro community and people on Twitch, I don't think any of us would have played it. Maybe
Yeah.
you, because you are the enthusiast of the NES stuff, but I would have never heard of it had it not been for the ability that we have now.
Yeah, this is a
fully
game that
attribute-
never made it onto my radar until like the early to mid 2000s at the earliest. I had
Yeah.
heard of it, but I never thought anything of it because I didn't know what it was. I don't know if advertising was not great for this or what, but I knew zero about this game and I still don't know a whole lot.
According to the Wikipedia article, it was released in North America in October of 1992. So, I mean, you're still October, even though it came out in Japan in June. At a time it went virtually unknown with little promotion and sold very poorly. So I think it could qualify for sure as a hidden gem.
I fucking crushed this pick, guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely, wire to wire.
Put that one in your
but-
back pocket for another hidden gems
Oh,
episode
jeez,
later.
Chard, I owe
have
you
one coming.
some money or something, man.
But looking
fine.
at the
Just glad
It's a
Sam's
looking at
meme
the-
now. I'm fine
Sorry.
with it.
looking at the reception section of Wikipedia on this, All Game Editor Skylar Miller describes this as one of the best platformers on the NES. IGN put it on in 2009. IGN placed it on their top 100 NES games. Yeah, so
I want to say, did someone mention it during our Presby Top 100? I thought maybe Little Samson might have been dropped, but it may
or
not.
best platformer. I think it got a nod. I think
Mhm.
we've definitely spoken about it in the past.
We've talked
before.
about it in the
It's a good
past, yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And it's deserving of all of it. Absolutely.
sweet.
All right.
I mean,
I'll have to try that one out.
it was published in North America by Taito, which I mean, notoriously they never advertise anything except Bubble Bobble. So
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's the only game they've ever made.
Wait, Taito made more than Bubble Bobble?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Oh.
Well, this worked out. I'm glad I got to go back to my original and not the one I felt obligated to make sure it was
Well,
discussed.
All right,
oh
You
my
figured out what
goodness.
the tunnels and hidden gems meme is fantastic.
there we go.
Yeah, you
All right, well-
you have one card. I get it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll look
For
forward to it.
me, there's a bit of a struggle because I have 3 games I wanted to mention today. And I don't think all 3 are going to get nods today, but I got to pick 2 of them. So, my first one is probably my favorite game of this year, but I recognize its shortcomings, so that's why I'm giving it runner up. We are going with Soul Blazer for the
Oh,
SNES. Now I know it's not aged the best, but the music in this game is absolutely badass. At the time that I played this, the story was just bonkers out there and really cool and dark. Like you're talking about this world where the king is basically sold off all the people of his kingdom for money to a demon. So
That sounds familiar.
I mean, it's better than turning them into bricks and then having
Yeah.
somebody run through and smash them.
Murder them. Yeah.
Like,
Unbeknownst
this-
to that person.
it's a pretty strong theme in video games, like to play on the, what good is it if you own the world with if you sell your soul. Um, but this is like so on the nose.
Mm.
And yes, that's the I'll come out and say that's the only Bible verse I know, and it's because of Symphony of the Night.
Mm. Nice.
So
Well done.
Video games are beneficial to spreading religion, I guess.
Well, funny enough, my game of the year I'll be bringing up religion for it. So there we go. It's going to be a theme apparently.
Yeah.
But Soul Blazer was the start of the quintet creation trilogy. So
Oh,
people
that's
know
right.
of like
Mm.
Illusion of Gaia and
Mhm,
Terranigma are the follow-ups to this.
Mm.
Not necessarily directly, but indirectly, it's sort of like what do you call it? An anthology, I guess.
Okay.
It's like in the same
I always
realm,
kind of
but
put ActRaiser in there too.
Mm.
But
yeah,
that's just
I
me.
always thought Soul Blazer and
those
ActRaiser
soundtracks.
were very much kind of the same.
I mean, it's the same
form.
developer. They're both quintet.
Right.
Is it the same guy who
And
did the
then-
music as well? Because ActRaiser
Yeah.
soundtrack. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, the ActRaiser soundtrack was great. I love that. Every once in a while I'll just get not ActRaiser, Soul Blazer. The Soul Blazer soundtrack was great. ActRaiser too, but every once in a while I'll just get a Soul Blazer song stuck in my head out of nowhere, and it'll just be in my head for days.
Hmm.
Nice. So this is an RPG, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an action RPG, so
Okay.
think like Zelda, but a little stiffer in terms of
Okay.
how the mechanics play.
Mhm.
But it's got a lot of inventory management and item discovery, and it kind of explores what the world would be like without the humans to inhabit it.
Mm.
And it's funny because most stories we hear are like, oh, humans are such a detriment to the world. And in this game, it's like, oh, we all miss our people, from the tools that use them to the animals that loved them, and
Oh, nice.
everything in between. So
So is this like a spiritual precursor to Baldur's Gate 3 with the speaking to animals?
Maybe.
Because Baldur's Gate 3, the speaking to animals is glorious.
Mhm.
well, you had to get something, I think, to be able to speak to the animals.
In Baldur's Gate 3 as well.
Ah.
Guy speak beaver.
Yeah.
But
Final
I
Fantasy
mean,
2 talking to Sorry.
this game, it was kind of bizarre because you got an item that let you, basically tap people on the head and talk to them while they were sleeping. So you'd go
Hmm.
into their dream and experience their dream with them and have a conversation with them there. You'd talk to like flower pots and dolls and dressers and dolphins and dogs, and like it was
It's like a Disney
so
game.
weird. It kind of was.
Yeah, we already
like,
talked about Beauty and the Beast.
There we go. Coming
but
right back
I mean, you
around.
start in this, unassuming village that just feels like any other RPG village, and then you go to an animal village, and then you go off to an undersea village where the mermaids and the dolphins live, and then you head off to a mountain cave with gnomes and giant snails. And by the end, you're in this kingdom that's got this gigantic laboratory and airships and massive technology. And then you go into an alternate reality to fight a giant demon and recover the souls
Like
of
you do.
everybody who lived there. But it's just wild to me how this game spawned, because it's not the best, but it spawned Illusion of Gaia and Terranigma, which a lot of people have very fond memories of. And
Mhm.
for very good reason. But this is kind of the start of that. And I kind of like this better than Illusion of Gaia, personally.
Nice.
The
I will
story
have
in
to
this
try
is
this
really
one
good,
out.
right?
It has its moments that are not so great, but
Okay.
like the overall idea is really cool, and some moments are really heartfelt and strong, and some moments are just like, what is happening?
Nice. And this was
The
on
translation wasn't always the best.
This was on SNES.
Yes.
Okay.
What a great console for RPGs.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Legendary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I would say that's the definitive genre for the SNES. But there's so many great games. Like, I mean, even racing.
They
Not
had-
to switch, gears here, but anyway, yeah.
They had some absolutely fantastic shmups. They had some great racers that we've already talked about. I mean, yeah.
I like, yeah, I like to think that RPGs really got their foothold in the
Fighting
SNES
games.
era,
Yeah.
and then branched out from there beyond that. But I feel like there's a real good platform in the SNES era where they really, really, really dug in deep, and then that's where we got all the stuff that we've got today is from that
Mhm.
general vicinity.
Yeah. Nice.
All right.
Cool.
Shall we just go around again, or does anybody else
Yeah.
have anything to say about Soul Blazer? I imagine I'm probably the only gigantic fan of this year.
It's on my
Yeah.
list of games to play, but I've never played Illusion of Gaia or Soul Blazer or any of them. I just hear lots of great things about them, and I do want to go
Yeah.
back. I don't know.
Wolf, you had mentioned 3 games. That was that. Oh, do you have 2 runners up, or do you have 2 games of the year?
I have 2 runners up, but I don't know if one of you is going to pick it. So if at the end, after we've done everything, I'll throw out my other runner up.
Your
Okay.
honorable mention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. So Jake, you want to kick off this round, or should we
Yeah,
let
sure.
Chard?
Well,
think I
my
can
game of
speak
the
for
year is
Chard.
Final Fantasy V.
Yeah.
The greatest
Wait,
main character name
wait.
ever called Butts.
That was mine. I was
Mhm.
Final Fantasy V.
Butts from the village of Licks.
It's just
Wow.
great. No, it's okay. So here's my game of the year. None of you would pick this one, and it might be it's an obscure one, but it's Dune 2. It came out on the PC or DOS in 1992. I probably more played it on the Genesis, where it was just Dune, but it's Dune 2 originally when it first came out. And for those who don't know, it's basically the precursor to any modern RTS. And I mean, there were other real time strategy games back then, but this was I think the first one which had like a campaign map where you could pick zones of which you wanted to kind of have the map pull up, and it altered the starting layout and what units you had when you picked a different campaign section. But it's also the one that brought in resource management. You had to collect spice; that was the resource.
Mhm.
So before you had Warcraft 1 and 2, where you're doing the wood, the gold, and all that stuff, you had Dune 2 out here with collecting of spice to pay for your units. And the whole like at the time when I played it, I didn't know of the books. Obviously, I didn't see the movies and that kind of stuff. I only knew of this game, and on its own, this game was incredibly just atmospheric with the lore. You pick one of 3 houses: Atreides, Ordos, or Harkonnen, and basically it's an all-out battle for Dune, Arrakis, and you got to collect the spice. But I just loved how it had the idea of, yes, there's spice fields on the map somewhere. You have to send over your harvesters, but you have to be careful because sandworms will eat your harvesters if you don't pull them out at certain intervals. How you could build anywhere on the map, but only if it was a rocky land type.
Mhm.
So you had this whole map, but you couldn't build across it. You had to pick where you could build your main bases on rocky, say, formations. And that affected, how you build your terrain and whatnot. It just really cool. Like you had wind generators and all the various buildings. There was a limited tech tree available. Just fantastic. A variety of units from hardware, tanks and trikes to soldier units. Just a vast number of units. The concept of harvesting spice was really great. I just love the atmosphere. The music was pretty great. And it was just all the factions felt quite different. I used to play Atreides most of the time. Atreides, I guess they doubled down on the original movie from the 80s with its Sonic abilities. So they had Sonic tanks in Dune 2, which is kind of interesting. I think I can't remember what Harkonnen had. Ordos, I think, was the spy house that had spies and poison and whatnot. But it just I love just building my base and just worried about my base more than anything else. I was always a turtler when I played real time strategy games. But I loved how you could build your base and upgrade it, and over time you unlocked a Star Palace, I think it was called, or a House Palace, and that let you bring out the big guns. I think the Harkonnen got a big nuke, Ordos got a spy that could take a unit out or a building out, and then I think it was Atreides got the Fremen, and I think you couldn't control them, and it was like one guy on the map, but he's like super powerful. But I just love the atmosphere of this game. It just, I mean, it led us to we got Dune 2000 a couple years later, which is also a fantastic real-time strategy game. But I don't know how well that 3D graphics hold up today. But I could still go back and play Dune 2 and love it. I just love the art of it. I love the pixel art portraits between the maps. Like your Mentat speaks to you, has plot or talks to you, his face is there. the map, the design, the three houses, just overall great atmosphere of a game, and just really fun, a fun real time strategy game. It just a blast.
Yeah, I went back and played this. I actually didn't play it when it was released. My introduction to the RTS genre, I don't know if it would be Warcraft 1 or Command and Conquer. I don't remember which one came first for me, but Command and
Yeah.
Conquer was Westwood Studios, who was also, this was
Right.
Dune 2 was Westwood Studios. So like you can see Westwood in its heyday was, kind of the RTS kings, right? They really kind of, I mean, it's probably not the first RTS, but it's probably the first most memorable RTS for people.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, of course, that led into Command and Conquer. And then, of course, everybody loves Command and Conquer Red Alert, although I prefer Command and Conquer, the base
It's so
game
good.
myself. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yep.
Yeah, this is
Funny.
the studio where when EA bought them, because EA had a habit of buying studios at that time and just utterly killing them. It was Westwood and Maxis, I think, are the ones that hurt the most when EA bought them out. Because after Westwood got bought out by EA, there wasn't much. I think the studio was dismantled. Because I always wanted another Dune game. I just love Dune
Yeah.
2. Dune 2000 was great as well. I love that and the cheesy cinematics they had. I just wish there was another one of those, and we're just not going to get it. They're just not going to go back to this kind of game. It's almost too simple for RTS these days, I guess.
Sure.
But this is the one I liked because I always felt overwhelmed with Warcraft with the various resources. I kind of just like how it was just spice. You had to collect spice. There's a risk to it. It made sense.
Well,
So
I'll have
I
you
really miss
know,
this game.
speaking of, since Dune is so popular right now, which is ironic, my wife is currently watching Dune right now. I can hear the downstairs. I was wondering if that was cut through on the mic. There is actually, I have it on my wish list. There is a Dune Spice Wars that's on Steam. That it's an RTS. It's basically built the same kind of concept of what you explained. So, I don't know much about it other than I wanted to try it, but go back to the other Dune that maybe this one would scratch that itch for you.
I'll have to take a look.
If
Yeah,
you
I
look
know there's
into
a
it. Yeah.
survival game coming out soon. I think it's early access this year. I'm gonna
Mhm.
cross my fingers for that one. But I love the franchise. Like I love the lore behind Dune. I also probably influenced by the movies this year. The second movie I really like a lot. But I
Yeah,
just something
great.
about the RTS game was just kind of timeless for me to go back to and play.
Guys, the spice must flow.
Oh my God.
Everybody
it's
out
gotta be
here
a
has such
mod.
cool names. Atreides. What's your name?
Yeah.
Huck,
Oh,
Paul?
D.
Hakonen.
Paul.
Hakonen.
Luck. Al Gaib. Stop. It's a Dune.
Oh, it's a good pick. It's a great pick. I loved
Shahalood.
Westwood was one of my favorite studios back in the day. Westwood
Yeah.
was absolutely one of my favorite studios. So, yep.
Good pick.
And
I
this
love
is
Dune and I love RTSs, so this is probably a good
It's
matchup.
a spicy pick.
It's a spicy
Oh,
pick.
there you go.
There you go.
This is
Hey.
I was much later to the PC gaming, so I did not. I never got to play this one.
It's on the
I never even
Genesis.
played Command and
And
Conquer.
it plays well on the Genesis, which is kind of strange. The Genesis had a few RTS games. The other one was Herwai Zaugi or Herwai Zog. I'm pronouncing that
Or
way
Zog Zui.
wrong. That's the one. So, and there was also General Chaos. So, like, there was a few strategy games, like real time strategy games on the Genesis, and they're all great. I love that system.
Nice. All right.
Sounds like a good
Well,
pick.
are we ready to for me
Yeah.
to tell you mine? All right.
Yeah, Sinistar, tell us your PC game.
Okay. Yes. So
Mhm.
speaking of PC games, since Dune 2, my game of the year for 1992 is Ultima 7, The Black
Oh.
Gate.
Ultima Ring Lamp.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Ultima Ring Lamp. No, this game it's one where it's arguably the best in the Ultima series. And I say arguably because 4 changed the board so much. Like Richard Garriott, the creator of the Ultima series, has always had a very forward thinking, view in the world of RPGs. Like when he went from Ultima 3, which is a great game, and basically found out that everybody is just min-maxing and becoming murder hobos. He basically created in Ultima 4, he created the concept of the avatar, and you need to live the virtues, right? And so that game actually, it doesn't necessarily have an end boss. It's all about bettering yourself and getting yourself to the virtues. Anyway, so that was kind of the first big jump that Richard Garriott made. Ultima 7, well, not really so much the jump in as far as like philosophy or that kind of thing. Basically took concepts that we now think of as normal, like our NPCs on schedules, right? An NPC may or may not be there depending on the time of the day. The ability to basically pick up and interact with almost anything on the world. These all came to Ultima 7, which was, I mean, this was new to kind of the RPG world. Plus, he took kind of the old standard Ultima interface where it was like the map was kind of up in the upper left, and then you had a bunch of other things. And he made the display the full screen and then overlays things on top of the screen. So these are, plus the dialogue system was substantial. Um, it had some of the I mean, this is a top-down isometric, and I remember seeing some stuff in this game and going, "Holy shit, that's brutal!" Like people nailed down and quartered, right? I mean, this
Right.
kind of thing. So these all came to Ultima 7. Plus, the story's good. And then Chard, you talked about, you know, King's Quest 6 had, you know, dialogue and the whole thing. I remember the first time I spun up Ultima 7, you know, it's an Ultima game where ever since 4 they kind of play that you the person are the actual player. It's not I'm playing a character. It's you're the avatar, you are the character in the game. And so the intro to this starts with this nice Ultima 7 screen and a butterfly kind of flies across the screen, and then it goes to static, and this big red face starts coming out of the static and then starts talking to you. It's a character called the Guardian, and it is full speech voice, you know, in 1992, and starts off with Avatar, like, you know, just right off the bat. So I remember
Ordon.
just, yeah, but just from the start, like it grabs you, right? And so, um, no, it introduced so many concepts that we think of today. And honestly, I really feel like this was probably the game that Richard Garriott also looked at and said, let's take the Ultima world and let's make Ultima Online, because he made everything interactive. He made everything, you know, the world was fleshed out. It wasn't just, oh, hey, look, there's a table with like a mirror sitting on top of it. No, you can pick up that mirror and you can put it in your inventory, right? So
Mhm.
yeah. Also, first game with the mouse interface. I mean, yeah.
Get me
No,
that.
Apparently this game had
six had a mouse interface. Sorry,
had a couple expansions, I think. It looks like that's pretty
it
cool.
did. So, well, it had an expansion, and then they released a second part. So, part 2, Serpent Isle. So that actually was a standalone game, and then it had its own expansion as well. And
Okay.
honestly, they're all fantastic. And if you want to play this on a modern, like on modern computers, there's a community driven, basically they, you know, kind of reverse engineered a bunch of the source code. It's called Exult, EXULT. You still have to have the core game files, so go buy them on gog.com or something,
Right.
and then it plays on a modern, you know, even Windows 11. I mean, they
Awesome.
continue to update it. They've also even taken out some plot holes and some, you know, game breaking, you know, quest dead ends and stuff. So
Cool.
yeah, so highly suggested.
Nice.
So that's my game of the year for 92.
Nice.
Yeah.
Another franchise I've been wanting to dig into for years and just never did.
Ultima, yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
It's such a lot. It's such a great
There's
history. Like, it
plenty
spans
of
from the very
them.
beginning of
I know.
gaming to now. It's still relevant. It's a really good franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Across various platforms, I have all of them, including 9, which I
Oh, I'm
know is
sorry.
garbage, but I have them all.
Yeah.
Just need to play
Don't-
them.
Don't start 9.
Okay.
All right. I guess it's my turn.
Yeah, go for it, Chard.
Should I go last or should I go?
The suspense chart is killing me.
I'm sure it is. All right. Well, mine has been talked about a couple of times in this particular episode, but I am legitimately going with Final Fantasy V. Now, GP was correct. We did not get it here in the States until it came over on a Final Fantasy. Is it Anthologies or Chronicles? I think it was Anthologies.
Anthologies.
On the PS1. That again had the shitty load times and was on a disc and all that happy crap. Wolf's probably going to pull out the Anthologies. Yeah,
It was Anthology. I was trying to think about it, but Chronicles was Chrono Trigger. That's
Chrono.
why the
Yeah, it was Chrono Trigger in
Oh.
4, I think. if I'm
4.
not mistaken. So yeah, I played this game many moons ago, and I freaking love this game. This game took the job system that has been appeared in both like 2 and 3. Well, not really 2, more 3 than anything, and really made it what I think is the best job system that's in any of the Final Fantasy games to this point. Being able to change what your characters can play as and act as, having the dragoons, having the beastmasters, the summoners, all of that stuff, and be able to intertwine and mix what you can do, and then taking some of those job abilities and adding them to other job abilities so that you can continue to use like bits and pieces. It really allowed you the ability to make your characters super fucking cool. It's also got one of the greatest songs in any Final Fantasy game, Battle on the Big Bridge, which is a killer fucking tune. If you have not heard that, even in its original format on the Super Famicom version, it's just a badass song. It's sick. The biggest downfall of this game is the very end has a difficulty spike that is not a hockey stick. It is an acute angle. It goes backwards. It is
It's tough.
really tough. You think you're cruising. Sinistar would throw this game across the room when he got to the void. He would say, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever played in my life." One of my proudest streaming moments is beating Neo X Death, being so much of a low level that I shouldn't have even been there. But being successful, that clip of me screaming and jumping up and down is circulated Twitch for many moons. But it's just such a great, it is, I would argue, a hidden gem within the Final Fantasy franchise because it's overshadowed by the talking of 4, 7, 6, all the ones that we love and we gush about. But I think 5 does not get the love that it absolutely deserves because it is an extremely well-made game. The plot is super cool. The characters, the bosses, the enemies, everything in it is fantastic. And it's a great game to play. Unfortunately, the back half of the game will make people put it down if you're not charred-headed enough to get through this last half of it. The hidden bosses in there, Shinryu is a really cool boss fight too, but he will wipe the floor with you the minute you walk in if you're not ready to take him on. It's very much like the war mech kind of aspect of, oh shit, I opened up a treasure chest and one of the hardest things to fight is in this chest in the void. Everything's cool. You fight a giant tree with a face on it.
It's what I've always wanted to do.
Exactly. It's so good. It is so good, and I cannot recommend it enough for people to go out and give Final Fantasy V a try and just play it and give it a whirl. Again, playing the different job systems and being able, every time you get a crystal, you get like 4 more jobs added to your list that you can interchange and play as throughout your characters, and it's really cool to just come up with ideas and then level those classes up, take what you need from the classes and work on other classes. It's a cool game. It's really cool. So Final Fantasy V, get your this actually is inbox. So I'm really proud to have the game, the manual and everything in that bad boy. So
What did you first play?
Go ahead.
That's a great pick, GP.
Yeah, it's a great pick, GP.
I was going to say, before GP jumps in and gushes more about this, I have to come in on the other side of the coin here. I do not like Final Fantasy V.
Uh-oh.
It's all right.
I've tried
you don't
it.
like butts?
I just...
Yeah, and it has one of the best character names in butts ever created.
I just
later changed to Bart. So
I didn't care about Barts or Butts or Pretz or whatever you want to call them. I didn't care about Boko. I didn't care about Ferris. I just didn't care. Like, I fell off of this because there was nothing that was like, yeah, care about these people. I was like, I don't.
I think the
And
mechanics in the game are what sold me more than the story itself.
Yeah.
the
Um,
job system didn't do much for me either.
oh
And
well,
it's funny
Wolf's
that
a hater. It's cool. It's
you
cool.
like Shining Force, right?
I like Shining Force 2, but I also
Oh,
am not a big fan of that game.
okay. Because I was gonna say
You
you
can
like
take
that,
retro achievements for that.
and you like Final Fantasy V for the job system, but you don't like tactics.
Yeah.
I don't like tactic games.
Ah, okay. So
I don't
Shining
like the
Force 2
mechanics
is
in
a
tactical
rare
games. Yep.
example then. Gotcha.
Yep. Exactly.
But
It was
yeah,
just
I
enough.
just
Shining Force 2 had just enough tactics in it for me to be like okay with it. And I think the permadeath thing and tactics, Final Fantasy tactics, makes me want to kill everything.
Yeah.
Literally.
If you killed everything, you wouldn't be worried about your permadeath because
I would not play the game. Like I
I'm
don't.
sorry. I just
It's a terrible game. Awful game. But Final Fantasy V, great game. I love it. It doesn't have Wolf seal of approval, but that's okay. I'll cry about it
I
later.
need
in
to
my
go
collection.
back and give it another shake because it might have been just the time I tried to play it when it came out, and when it came out in North America, and it just
Well,
wasn't
that's
clicking with me then. Maybe I don't know. So I'll have to give it another shot.
You chrono triggered it. You Sinistar chrono triggered it, where you tried to play a number of times and just kept bouncing off of the, you know.
I bounced off it twice, but yeah,
can I
it's
make a proposal?
Propose.
Because I'm not going to say too much after my faux pas earlier. I think in 2025 we should all pick each other's Sisyphean games for 2025, and I think I know exactly what we should put Wolf on because 5 absolutely worth it. Recently, a cousin of mine had asked me a question about if me and him and another cousin of ours were to design our own like Final Fantasy characters, who or what would the attributes of this person be? I've thought about it so much, and I keep coming back to it would be so cool to put together and design like attributes, and then I realized we've done that, and it's exactly what Final Fantasy V was. And to have like
It's
a Mystic
just
Knight ability with the Dragoon is such
Yep.
a cool idea, and to be able to mix and match those. And then you have job classes like the Mime where you can pick 3 attributes, or the
Mhm.
Freelancer where you can I don't know, just it's so cool. And then with Final Fantasy, really kind of the even numbers are the ones that are focused on story and plot and character, and then 1, 3, and 5 are more mechanics based.
Yep.
They just yes, mechanics are really what took the show for 5, but I think there's a lot to love about the characters. I'm kind of the opposite side there. Specifically, Galuf, his
Mm.
his big finish scene is probably, I think, one of the most impactful things in the Final Fantasy franchise up to that point. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for letting me be here, Chart. I love you, and I'm sorry.
I was asking
You
Char, when
paid
did
know
you
what-
first play this game? Was it the
I played
anthology
this.
or
No, well, I think so. It had to have been anthology because that was the English translation one. But I played
Yeah.
it probably in 2002 when I had the PS1. But I played it and finished it when I started streaming, probably in 17 or 18.
Because like for me, when I first got a computer, I did not have a great computer. So a friend of mine turned me on to emulators, right? Like Genseist and Nesticle and all those wonderful things that nobody looks at now. But part of that though was when you're hunting around for ROMs back in the day, is the whole idea of ROM hacks. Was just such a small, really awesome niche thing, and part of that was translations.
Mhm.
So I think the Final Fantasy V got a fan translation, which you're looking at a JRPG with countless lines of dialogue that somebody took the time to actually translate it and release it as a patch so
insane.
that people in North America could play this game is mind-boggling. But that's how I first played it, as a fan translation version of it. And just I remember when it got announced for Final Fantasy Anthology, I almost bought a PlayStation because of that. Almost. Because I remember playing, I think it was early 2000s when I played Final Fantasy V for the first time. And I loved the job system. Like I love the original Final Fantasy because you can pick your character classes. I love that. And the job system is everything like that, plus 10 times more. The mixing and matching of abilities is really cool to me. That's why I like tactics and whatnot so much. Like if I were to design the perfect Final Fantasy, it would definitely be like the plot of 6, but with the job system of 5, like hands down, and maybe add the materia from 7. I love the gameplay in 5. I don't remember much of the story, if I'm gonna be honest. I remember butts and Galuf. I remember chocobos, but I don't remember much of the plot. But I remember how much I loved the gameplay and how the combat felt so good. If I were to go back and play Final Fantasy from that era, I don't think I could sit through 4 again, but I could probably do 5 because I love the combat so much.
One of, if I may, I know I said I'm done talking, but I don't think anybody believed me. 5, like graphically, if you go and look at it, like 4 is so different from 6. And part of that's because, hitherto Final Fantasy had always been like this kind of medieval setting, dragons, castles, that sort of thing, where 6 was more steampunk and, all of that kind of thing. 5 graphically really is a really solid bridge between the aesthetics of 4 and 6 when it comes
Yep.
to specifically bad guy design. If you look at Neo X Death, so much more in line with what Final Fantasy 6 went with when it came to the final,
The Tower
Tower of
Gods, yeah.
Gods. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's so interesting. And then Uematsu did such a great job with the music in that one. There's a really interesting guy on YouTube. After you listen to this episode, feel free to check him out. Who did these little mini documentaries on 1 through 6 individually. And his episode on Final Fantasy 5 was like 2+ hours, like 2.5 hours. His name was Andrew Blewett, Bluett. I might be getting that wrong, but he really hasn't done much except for that. And I don't think he'd ever even played RPGs or Final Fantasies before he made these videos. So he played them and then did them, and they were so insanely well done. There's a lot of insight to go back to what Jake was talking about with the fan translation and like the whole saga of that, and how that really kind of spurred a lot of, things like that moving forward for what fans feel like they have the right to do to a game. It's pretty interesting stuff. Anyway, thank you.
I mean, we were supposed to get 5, like we had 4 come out as 2, and then 3 came out as 6, but there was a gap obviously between the 2, and we got Mystic Quest while Japan got 5. So everybody was pissed off because they were like, Mystic Quest is kind of a walk in the park for like RPGers. We wanted to get 5 because 5 is actually difficult. So we should have gotten it sooner. They thought it was too tough for us to get. Apparently, it is
the
what it is,
translation team specifically kicked it back. Like, yeah, this isn't accessible enough for the average gamer, so we're not translating
right.
it.
But it's fun, and honestly, aside from the ending, it felt like a pretty standard playthrough. I really want to get my hands. I have the remake. Or the Pixel remasters, and it's one I've been trying to get into and play, but my ever growing backlog continues to lengthen.
Nice, good pick.
Good pick, GP. Thank you.
Thank
you for warming up the crowd. I appreciate it. It's like when you
feels worse.
It's like when you go to sit down on a chair and it's already warm, and you're like, "Oh, that's not bad."
You don't like what I left for you? Okay, well that's fine. This feels worse than the hidden gems thing. Like
you're not
very embarrassed. And
you know what?
Just kind of put the hidden gems meme to bed. So I'm glad that I could provide this.
GP, have you tried tunnels?
Not in Mario Kart, as it were, but other tunnel games.
What about in Final Fantasy V? Have you tried tunnels in 5?
I don't even know if I like Final Fantasy V, so let's move on. Sorry,
all right, GP. What's your game of the year?
King's Quest 6. And no, okay. So
picked the games. I'm sorry.
Like I said earlier when I was sniping off other people's picks, this one I think will be a lot of head nodding and like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if anybody will fight me on this, pun intended, but we're going to go with the arcade cabinet release of the first Mortal Kombat, released October 8th, my daughter's birthday. But many years before she was born. And it's such a cool game. Recently, I went to this place in town called The Arcade, and it's this new place where you pay like $12 and they put you on a wristband, or they put a wristband on you and you can just come and go as you want. They have booze. It's free play for all the games, and they have all of the old shit that we loved.
Oh
And
boy.
they, among that, had Mortal Kombat's 1, 2, 3, and 4 just lined up next to each other. And is Mortal Kombat 1 my favorite of the arcade cabinets? No, not at all. Is
Yeah.
it probably the most important? 100,000%. Um, we
Yeah.
talked about this earlier. I mentioned Mega Man 2 just building on what Mega Man 1 did. We said the same thing with Sonic. Mortal Kombat follows that same thing where 2 was leagues ahead of what Mortal Kombat 1 could have ever even thought of. But it was so important that Mortal Kombat 1 existed. I pumped so many quarters into that in my childhood that even going back and playing it as a free play game felt kind of like a cheat. But it's so great. It got players talking and it got non-players talking. I think they called them
Oh,
congressmen at the time.
yeah.
But
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
and it deserved all of the concern that it generated. Ed Boon and John Tobias were, household nicknames there for a while. And there's just so much that I love about this game. The hidden things, the fatalities. It's so stripped down compared to anything that came after it, but it's so wonderful. And so
And
that's my pick for Game of the Year
and
92.
the finger breaking placement of the buttons.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
I can't tell you how many times I tried to figure out a good placement for like the ability to have like your finger on all the buttons at the same time, and it
Yeah.
just does not work because it's that
Yeah.
weird H, right? Or I guess
Mhm.
X, right?
Mhm.
And also, coming from a Street Fighter world where holding back is block, right? And now I've
Right.
got a block button and
Uh-huh.
having taking the low and high block even further than Street Fighter 2 did, right? Like
Mm.
the leg sweep and having to defend against all the leg sweeps. And I mean, and then yeah, of course, walking into an arcade, hearing this brutal sound,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
right? Like, and then hearing finish him, and then watching either the demo or a player that's playing it just like rip a head off, right? And you're just
Right.
like this is brand new concept to me. I'm like, actually, I mean, there was a game called Barbarian on the Apple too, but anyway, yeah.
They
8-year-old
used
me was
they
enthralled.
used they used actual actors, I believe,
Yeah.
to
Yeah, it was all
film
Yeah.
green
this too,
screen.
right?
It was
Which
all
is
green
what
This
the
was
screen.
big
all
deal
green
was, that it
screen,
was actual
digitized
green screen.
actors.
Right. So, and
And
I know
it's
that was the big deal, is that you were actually killing real people,
uh-huh.
with whatever
Yeah.
you were doing. So I remember that being the big, "Well, what the fuck is going on?" I remember reading about these in like Game Informers and shit, and Game Pro way back in the day, where like they're making a fighting game with real people, and you're like, no, they're not. And then they did it, and it was Mortal Kombat, and it
Yeah.
was like, holy shit. Mortal Kombat, fun fact, is the reason I face tank everything,
Mm.
because of the fucking block button.
Mm.
So, fun fact. That's why
I
whenever you're saying he's just face taking, is because I don't want to fucking
But
find the block button. I just go for it.
I would highly suggest, you can find on YouTube videos of the original recordings that they did, the green screen recordings. And
Yeah.
what's really interesting is like the way that they, did the number of frames and whatever are perfect, because like I picture in my mind what's her name doing her
Sonya.
flip over,
Sonya.
Sonya,
Sonya.
and like flipping over to grab the person with their legs. And when you watch her in the video of the recording, she like flops off the end of that.
Right.
Because I mean, obviously that's not really something somebody can do, but
I like
Yeah.
I like the green screen memes where they're like, this is how it looks, and then they do something cool, and then
Mhm.
it's like, this is how it actually happened, and it's like Liu Kang doing his fucking flying jump kick thing,
uh-huh.
but there's like 3 people picking him up and
Yeah.
running with him, you
Uh-huh.
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
all in full green suits,
Movie magic.
Yeah.
Movie
Yeah,
magic.
exactly.
But I mean, just take a moment to think about and appreciate everything that spawned as a result of this game.
Yeah.
Not just video game wise, but the tropes. Okay, and I'll say this: as a kid who grew up watching Transformers and Power Rangers, I understood what palette swapping was vis-a-vis toys, and I always kind of was like, "No, I already have this guy at home. I can imagine whatever. I can paint him if I want to." I totally fell for it when it came to the like the Lin
Oh
Kuei
yeah.
stuff, and like having one person in one outfit with 8 different colors. I'm like,
Mhm.
I bought into that, and I prided myself on not falling for that with
Well,
other things.
I think
That's not
part of it
Katana, that's Melina.
I think part of it was
I see you, Mortal Kombat.
I think part of what it was is that each one of them actually had an entirely different move set. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
there wasn't this like, sure, okay, Sub-Zero and Scorpion are the same guy, just in different colored, mask
Mhm.
and whatever, but they have entirely different move sets, right?
Yeah.
And same
Yeah,
with, of
like
course, Noob Saibot, Smoke, Reptile,
Oh.
etc.
like
Ugh.
Street Fighter, you had
Cyrax
Ryu
and
and Ken, but they had the
Vector.
same move set. Whereas at least Sub-Zero
Exactly.
and Scorpion looked the same,
Right.
but at least they had different moves, which is always great. I love
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat 1 GP. I guess I like 3 more, but 1 is where it started, and without 1 we wouldn't have the rest of them. And I think it still stands as one of the last few games I think that has the block button as just an alternative, right? Because I never really cared for Street Fighter 2's hold back to block when I was a
Mhm.
kid. And I didn't like Street Fighter 2 because everybody's normals were all different. So it was very hard to pick up the characters. Whereas Mortal Kombat, I could pick anybody. And at the very least, I knew how to do sweep and uppercut and roundhouse.
Yeah.
So, and you kind of built the special moves as you go. But I loved it for that alone. So, plus,
Also,
pulling a heart out of somebody's chest.
right.
A tier.
And how good does it feel to put somebody in the corner and then just do the quick punch just over and over, and you hear that and they're
Yeah.
just flying backwards the whole time. Like it feels so good to just
like the sweep kick.
corner somebody.
Just sweep kick all day.
Yeah.
And I think anybody out there who has kids now, where their kids try to tell them the plot to any video game, or they go on about some build in Minecraft, and you see those memes about like where my mind goes when I always want to pay attention and listen to my kid, because I know I put my parents through this with some of the background stories to Mortal Kombat. I would explain, especially whenever 2 came out or 3 or whatever, I'd be like, here's what they've been up to since last we checked in. And so I always try to be patient when my kids are telling me about those sorts of things, because I'm like, this is me paying it forward that my parents were so good to me and at least acted like they knew it all what I was talking about. So
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. And half
And
of my life, if I wasn't playing Mortal Kombat as a kid, I was on the dial-up internet trying to download move sets and cheat codes for Mortal Kombat. That's all I
And
did ever. So
playing Tetris while on the dial-up.
my microphone my ears are going out.
I'm just going to call it out. I mean, I love Mortal Kombat 1, absolutely, but my favorite Mortal Kombat character is still Cyrax.
Cyrax is dope.
3, yeah.
That's
Agreed.
great. Yeah.
Second
Smoke is so great. I love
Second
it.
is Cabal. I love Cabal.
Really?
This is
Cool.
why Sinistar and I are friends.
Oh, you guys are great.
I still say to anybody watching or listening, you got to go play Mortal Kombat 9. Find a way to play it, because that retells the story from 1, 2, and 3 together in one game, and it's so good. I mean, the graphics are stupid, but the storyline is pretty fun.
I need a joystick. I need a
Well,
hit
I
box.
I never super got into Mortal Kombat, but definitely I remember the hype in my neighborhood with all the kids in the neighborhood. They were just super excited about this. And I mean, I was in, but I sucked at the game. I would have rather played Street Fighter personally. But it was cool to see like these live action characters and all the blood and everything. Like this was new,
Wh-
right?
Wait, hang
And-
on. Sweat. You're beating the sweat out of them.
No, I was
Yeah, the
playing on the
Nintendo, Super
Genesis.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have a
yeah, we
go.
were playing on the. Yeah.
Get that
But
blood.
also, if it weren't for this game, we also wouldn't have had that joke grenade that I got to hit Jake with by accident. What, like a year and a half after I made the thumbnail, with Sub-Zero Lopez and Smokey O Lopez.
I love that thumb.
Yeah.
It's so good. Sub-Zero Lopez is as iconic.
And Zeppol Oiram. Like,
Also, for the development team at Midway and everybody who worked on those games, I felt like they really knew what gamers were looking for, even just outside of the game. The number of Easter eggs, again, cheat codes, mini games, playing Galaga on 3. I mean,
Yeah.
the unlockables. It's
Listening for the toasty
the
and
toasty,
knowing
yeah. I mean, and just the sheer number of rumors and hearsay, and I think my cousin knew somebody who read this in a magazine. I mean, up until we got saving Aerith in Final Fantasy VII, I think Mortal Kombat had to have taken the crown for rumors and hearsay.
Yep.
I mean, they would take
a lot of them
rumors like
weren't true.
Airmac and turn it into freaking canon characters later
Yeah.
on. Like, how funny is
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
right?
Because the developers
Reptile
listened.
and Noob
Yeah.
Sabot and
Yep.
the fucking
So many
all those hidden
in-jokes.
characters. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good shit.
Chameleon. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
It's a great series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't always win. They don't know. They're not always great. Sorry. Mortal Kombat 4. Never mind, guys. There's storms coming through. I'm about to lose power. So that's my pick.
Yeah.
Thank you all for
That's a good
listening.
pick. Yeah.
That's
All
my
right.
pick and Char's pick.
right.
Mortal Kombat 5.
Gosh, I feel like one of my choices here is an RPG and the other one is not. And we've had so many RPGs that I'm kind of leaning toward the not, but yeah, I'm going to go. Okay. My game of the year for this, and it's weird because these are not generally my style of games. Streets of Rage 2.
Streets of Rage 2.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
That's a good one.
I love
Yep.
Streets of Rage 2.
Nice.
That's a
Streets
awesome
of
game.
Rage 2 took
Good pick.
Streets of Rage and made it infinitely better.
Mhm.
The music was absolutely amazing. All the characters were fun to play. It didn't matter. Like you could be Blaze or Max or Skate or
Yeah,
any of
Skate.
these,
Skate's
and
fun.
it was so
So
much
edgy.
fun. What's that? So
So
edgy?
edgy, these names. My name is Skate.
Blaze.
Shit.
Well, wait. Is
Okay.
is it Blaze or
Blazer.
is it Blaze or is it Soul Blazer?
Right.
It sounds
Blazer.
it sounds like American
Blazer.
Gladiator names.
My consigliere, Michelle.
That's right.
But yeah, this game was a total blast. The enemies were just super out there. Like they're blowing fire at you and you're beating up an amusement park ride at one point. Like it's just so bizarre. At one point you end up like toward the end of the game, you're in a baseball field and the middle of the field just becomes an elevator and takes you deep down underground. Like
Hell yeah.
it's so out there. It's great. Like
Yeah.
The Simpsons
went
tried to
above it.
pull this stuff in their beat 'em up. And
Right.
somehow this serious game did far more exaggerated things.
Streets of
I think
Springfield.
3 had the alien level. Did 3 have the alien level?
That was two. That
Was that
was
two?
the amusement
that
park.
too.
Okay.
Wow.
It's
And that's
crazy.
kind of the theme here. Like the number of times, kind of the concept here is that when a sequel makes the original look like it's just a proof of concept demo for the real game they wanted to
yeah.
make.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah,
Streets of Rage 2, same vein, same thing.
Good pick. I love Streets of Rage 2. We played I played the hell out of this game growing up. I would continue to play it, and it has just continued on from there. I mean, I don't know if there is anything better. 4 might be better than 2, maybe, just
Maybe.
because it's a nostalgic thing. I think it's more the nostalgic lean, but 2 is, I think, the epitome of the Streets of Rage franchise.
I still think 2 is better. I played through all 4 of these with my kid when 4 came out. And 2 was our favorite.
Yeah.
4 was
2's
good,
awesome.
but 2 was better.
The music was so good in 2. That's probably one of the standouts for
Yes.
best music on the Genesis. Like if people compare Genesis and SNES as they like to do, I always like to point to Streets of Rage 2. The music is so good.
Final Fantasy
Yeah, the
5.
composer for
Final
this
Fantasy
game
V.
went so hard. It was ridiculous. Even for
Yeah.
like little 5-10 second jingles, they were like, we're
Yeah.
going to go at this as hard as possible.
Picking up an apple, you're like, dude, I'm pumped.
This is what every day feels like if your name is
Yeah.
Skate.
Yeah.
Or Blaze.
You're a kid with
Just-
rollerblades.
Just the one skate, not two skates,
Just-
not a group of skates.
Just skate. Yeah, single
Just
skate.
skate. Yeah.
As in, the verb.
Yeah.
Streets of Rage 2. Freaking awesome. That's a
good
great
pick.
pick.
All righty.
Real quick, I realized that when I was talking about my pick, I alluded that I was gonna talk a little bit about religion when my pick came up, and I realized I didn't. Part of the reason I needed to bring that back up is it has this entire book about the religion in the feelies that come with it, and it
Fellowship of the Ring.
well, no, it's I mean, yes, but it basically it's Richard Garriott taking on Scientology. So it's kind of interesting.
And that's why we don't hear much about Richard Garriott anymore.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
He's more British in
wanna-
real life. That's why.
I
He
do
changed his
really
name.
quick want to touch on a couple other honorable mentions.
Yeah.
One is a game, but barely Mario Paint for the Super
Mm,
Nintendo.
mhm,
I
mhm,
I
mhm.
almost picked Mario Paint
Mhm.
'cause I really
Because
dig that game.
I
Ice
mean, this was
Waters.
super cool for the kids who really wanted to try and express themselves in new ways.
Yeah.
And this let them do it. I had friends who were like making music videos
Mhm.
using, their VCR and Mario Paint. And
That's
so
cool.
they'd like make a whole track of music in Mario Paint and then animate the whole music video to it. And it was just
Yep.
wild.
That's
That's
awesome.
special, yeah. They did a couple of edutainment games with Mario, I think, in '92, right? That's when Mario is Missing came out as well.
Yeah.
Not
I
that
think
Paint is
so.
necessarily edutainment, but these kind of peripheral Mario IP sort of
Yeah.
things. What a fun
Actually,
and yeah, special game, Mario Paint.
it took like 10 years or something, but some mainstream musical artist actually used Mario Paint to make their entire music video.
Oh wow.
It was Junior Senior. The song was called
Yeah,
Everybody.
yeah. Yep. Everybody.
Yep, that's the one. That whole music video is Mario
Everybody.
Paint. It's wild.
Oh.
Huh,
Oh wow.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
What's the name of the
And
song again?
then,
Everybody.
Everybody. Okay,
yeah,
I'll look it up.
you've probably heard it.
Yeah, you've
And
heard
then
it.
the other one is Lunar the Silver Star. And this is where I was
Yes.
torn because it was another RPG.
That was
This
one I
is a
wanted to
really good
had to get
RPG.
thrown in there. Yep.
This was for Sega CD, so I didn't get to play it back then. It took about 6 years before I got to play it. But yeah, this was an absolutely stellar game. It was voice acted all the way through.
Yep.
It had cutscenes, which I mean they were limited to be Sega CD cutscenes, but it even had an opening song with that like 90s beat.
Yep. Yep.
It sounded like a 90s pop song.
Very
And
nice.
it hits.
Yep. It's a great that's a great game. Fuck Nash, but
Mhm.
the rest of the game is great. The enemies were on the field and you can kind of duck them and dodge them if you wanted to, and the fighting mechanics were really cool. The big bad is awesome. And there's some really good story, like, oh my god moments throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
Lunar had a strong story and strong characters, and you just felt like you were involved in the whole thing from start to finish. It really does sell itself really well. Lunar is a great game. I played that way later in my life, but I streamed it, and goddamn, both Lunar and Lunar 2. I could gush about Lunar for a while. It's a great game.
Nice.
Yes. Anybody else have honorable mentions they want to throw out there before we wrap this up?
I
I
think
have
I've done
one.
enough damage.
Link's 386, Access Software. I had some friends that worked for Access Software back in the day. One of the best golf simulators. I still feel like it's one of the best golf simulators even today. I refurbished a Pentium computer. One of the first things I spun up on it was Link's 386. It's really cool. It's just a great honorable mention as well. Came out in '92.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it out there, even though I kind of talked about the first one last week, or last time we did this. But I'd like to throw out Road Rash 2, another one of the games that took upon the original and just made it all that much better. I loved Road Rash 2. It's the motorcycle combat racing game. I talked about Road Rash 1 being my 91 game of the year. But I just want to give this one an honorable mention because it doesn't touch the ones that we talked about today, but it definitely needs to be said that the whole Road Rash series is fun and awesome, and it just keeps getting better with each game. So would recommend.
Yeah, for me, it's honorable mention would be Landstalker for the Genesis. This is a game that I played very late when I had the Sega channel. It was going to be a runner-up. The only reason it's not, honestly, is because it's a 3/4 view platforming game, dungeon crawler, and there's no shadows. So when you're trying to jump across floating platforms in the air, it's infuriating. But it's a game where I kind of put the time into it to kind of learn the platforming and learn the movement of blocks. And it pays off in terms of a great story. It's a very long game, tons of map to explore, lots of secrets, tons of secrets, just like all kinds of hidden stuff that whenever I found hidden stuff, I was just amazed. And it's a game that I would try and talk to friends about, and they're like, never heard of it. Or if they rented it, they bounced off it really quickly because it's one of those games you really have to kind of like acquired taste it I guess like wine, you have to really give it a chance. But the first few hours, you're like, what the hell am I playing? The lack of shadows is really detrimental to it. It's not as bad as Mario RPG, I guess, but it's a good one. And when I say Genesis RPGs, there's so few of those, but this is definitely one that stands out.
Is no one gonna say Echo the Dolphin?
No,
Was
it's a
that
trash game.
92?
No.
That was 92.
I was going to bring up
I
Contra 3, but I don't know if anybody else really liked that one. So,
Contra 3's all right.
We did an episode on Echo, I think early on. It was one of our first episodes, I think.
Let's talk about
Mhm.
one of the most what the fuck games ever created in Echo the Dolphin in 1992.
MC
Later on, press B to cancel. Or go watch the episode from before, because that game is a fucking twist.
Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time. Hypestone Heist, isn't that 92?
Actually, I think Turtles in Time was either 91 or 93. I don't think that was on the 92 list.
That's a good one too. I was actually.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Barcade's GP. I was actually at one last night. Yours sounded way better than mine though. But they had all the Konami beat 'em ups, and they had a really beat up old TMNT cabinet. And the controls were great, but the monitor was so bad. But I love that game, man. That TMNT arcade game is so good.
They had that one. They did not have. Okay, they had X-Men, but it was down to one screen. Every X-Men arcade I've ever played had the dual monitors.
Huge ones. Oh, those ones. I
huge ones,
want
yeah.
one of those. If I ever win the lottery, I want the big
one
Bertha of X-Men cabs in my corner.
Yes. The one they didn't have was Captain America and the Avengers, the side-scrolling beat 'em up. That's it.
remember that
I think that one's great.
Yeah.
But anyway, none of that matters right now.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can talk about that on Marco Polo.
Nice.
All right.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Press B to Cancel. You can find us at pressb.org
There it is.
or pressbtocancel.com.
To the
There it
owner of pressb.com, you're an asshole. Wanting $4,000 for a domain name is criminal. I don't care that it's 4 characters. Pressb.org was $10. So I'm good. Don't worry about it.
Luckily, we
pressb.org.
don't own either of those, and it's just pressbtocancel.com. God damn it.
No, we
We
own
do own
pressb.org.
pressb.org.
Oh, we do
I
own
bought- I bought it.
pressb.org.
Are we
So
an
do we got
organization?
$10?
$10 4
He
characters.
bought it after you
We
tried
have
to send
spreadsheets.
people.
We're a little organized.
Yeah.
He bought it after you tried to send people to pressb.com.
At least I'm
Yeah,
not stealing.
that's pretty
other
much what
people's
it was.
Yeah.
Trying to save
Fuck you
those
guys.
stray listeners. What's pressb.com? Why is it a landing page to buy it for 4K? What the hell? Is there a podcast for this? No, man. $10 is a steal. I'll take $10.
Wow.
Come check out our Discord. Let us know if you disagree or agree and why. Or just comment below the video and tell us. Like,
And tell us your
What
picks.
did we miss?
we
Yeah,
check it
what
out.
did we miss?
Yeah. What did we
missed Echo.
forget?
That's what we missed Echo the Dolphin.
Check on.
No, nobody
Check
likes
on
Echo
for
the
the Game
Dolphin.
Gear.
Nobody.
I
It's
like
just
Echo the
don't-
Dolphin.
No,
I
no,
have
you
Echo the
don't.
Dolphin.
No, you don't.
I do.
Nobody likes that
I
game. You
do.
like that game?
Yeah,
God,
I
that
do.
game is so boring, Char.
And see, that confirms how your IQ is not lower than mine because I hate that game.
God, damn, that game is awful.
I think
I
that's
think
a reverse. I think that's the reverse. Look at how simple this game is. I'm a dolphin in space.
We talked about revisiting old episodes now that we're doing video. I think Echo should be one of them because I remember we all dumped on it, I think, when we first did that. It'd be good to revisit when somebody likes it. It's, for once, not me
Uh-oh.
getting beat
Bingo.
on. Like a
Nice.
Bingo.
bingo. Oh, boy. On a shelf.
Wow.
All right.
I
well,
like the game.
No, you
this has
don't.
been-
You
That's
just think
fair.
you do.
It is.
this has been great, guys.
2
All right.
hours.
I know.
Yeah.
We got to go.
Yeah. 1992 hours.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It's been another episode of Press B to Cancel.
Toasty.